Anne McMaster is from Garva. Anne's knowledge of the challenges of rural life began as a 10-year-old when she had her first driving lesson on a Massey Ferguson 135 tractor without any power steering. She says she's reached the age where she prefaces every sentence with, "Well, in my day." And she realises there's no going back now. This evening, Anne is reading Gardener's World.
Very thank you. It is fantastic to be here. This is my first time enjoying flash fiction here, so it's been absolutely amazing. I've got an awful lot to live up to this evening. Yes, I have no regrets about that Massey 135. It was great. I learned about gardening following my mother around and carrying buckets of water and gurning, because that's what teenagers did. So when my mum died very suddenly when I was 30, I was living in the States at the time, and I came back from California, and I was growing buttercups for the first few months after she died because I didn't know what they were. So I then discovered the joy of gardening, and my mother would have dearly had a great laugh and loved to watch me learning. But this is something that I blame. Gardener's World comes from memories of bouncing around as a very enthusiastic 30-something where the only plant I knew was hosta. So I would go into garden centres and go, "Hosta!" And my friend, whose dad was a horticulturist, would go, "That's wonderful, like, here's something else." So I, and also reading too much of Paradise Lost. So this is a wee bit of tongue-in-cheek, and it's called Gardener's World. On a soft, late spring evening, with dusk spanielled at his heels, God moved slowly through the garden, easing his tired muscles hot and close and tight from a long day's work. He watched and stretched slowly and luxuriantly as he walked, contented now that the early garden was taking shape and that his long day's work was almost done. Eden was looking well tonight, he thought. He'd followed the gardening magazine's recommendations to prepare the plots over the winter. A bit of an irony, he thought to himself, as he'd created the human beings that he now looked to for advice. But their advice had paid dividends. Already the garden showed promise. Raised beds were filled and ready. Plants were pruned. Even the skeletal fruit canes stood to attention, ready for the growing sun. God visualised the various parts of Eden later in the year as they blossomed fresh and luxuriantly green, bearing leaves and tiny buds, promising a heavy crop of salads, vegetables, and sweetly jewelled fruits. The long hedge at the back was freshly mulched, and roses, his favourite flower if God could admit to being partial, would shortly offer him their scented blossoms, their delicate scents rising heady and warm in his softly cupped palm. Weeds had been lifted, butts filled, paths scoured. Yeah, the old place was looking well tonight, he thought, leaning carefully on his spade as he leaned into the soil and looked across the earth. In the corner, by the spare plant pots, the organic compost heap, the wormery, and the random tools stored carefully in sharp sand, an evening bonfire glowed, thickly glistening orange tongues of flame licking hungrily at the twigs and branches that God had already carefully pruned. What a boon, he thought. What a blessing and a boon. To find in that far corner of the garden, when he had needed it most, that coruscating heap of sputtering flame. Deep within its golden coals, yes, there remained the odd singed feather, or a now dulled jewel. But the smell of burning angel would pass eventually, and every busy gardener, the Almighty smiled to himself at the serendipity, needs a bonfire after all.